everybody? Welcome back to the Bay Bolts channel. For the first time in 7 games, Jake, we have to discuss a loss. Guys, welcome back to the Bay Bolts channel for this episode of Quick Strikes. My name is Michael Wax, joined as always with my co-host Jake Ricker. A 4-3 shootout loss for the Lightning tonight. Jake, how you doing?
It was a tough loss tonight. After winning so many games in a row, you come into this one and lose in a shootout. That's always a tough pill to swallow. But I do think there are a lot of positives that came out of this game. I don't think the Lightning played that terrible overall in this one. And full credit to Malcolm Subban in this one. He played fantastic tonight and was, I think, the main reason the Blackhawks even had a chance and ended up winning this game. So a lot to dissect from this. I would love to hear the viewers' thoughts right now on this game. Let me know in the comments down below if you thought the Lightning played well, if you thought they played bad. Any and all comments are always appreciated. So
Yeah, absolutely, guys. We'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. But let's be honest, this was the Malcolm Subban show. He was absolutely phenomenal, whether it was in regulation, in overtime, or in the shootout, stopping all three of Braden Point, Victor Hedman, and Steven Stamkos in the shootout to put an exclamation point on the victory. Jake, when it comes to this game, even though the Lightning lost, I actually thought there was a lot to like about this game. And the biggest thing for me was Alex Killorn. I thought Killorn had a great game, not just because he put up stuff on the score sheet. He did that last game too. I actually thought he had a pretty poor game last game. But tonight he was up on the play, he was generating scoring chances. He was on a line, a different line actually than normal with Yanni Gordon, Steven Stamkos. That entire line was generating chances. They had a fantastic game. It's a shame they only got one goal between the three of them, but Yanni Gordon was setting up plays all night. He's a pest. That's basically what he does is he gets pucks around the boards and gets them to the guys that are open in the slot. And Killorn capitalized on those opportunities. I know his goal was a power play goal, but those other goal scoring opportunities he had 5-on-5. He was great. I thought it was a great game for Killorn.
the play that proved that Killorn had a really good game today to me was when in overtime, right before the Lightning picked up their power play, Killorn was battling by himself in the corner. The rest of the Lightning were making a change, and he was still able to steal the puck away from one of the Chicago players and get all the way to the front of the net and draw that hooking penalty right there. Even though nothing ended up coming of it, that's a great play by Killorn. He didn't give up on the play and fought and made Chicago make a mistake there and give the Lightning a chance on the man advantage. Fantastic job by Killorn tonight. He played really well. He was on the score sheet, made great plays, as you mentioned. So I love Killorn. I thought Killorn played a really good game. That's really good to see from him. Who he had a rough start to the season, and I think these last couple of games he's played very well, and it's good to see him finally get into the flow of things. I thought McElhinney played an all right game tonight as well. Did let up 3 goals, but I don't think they were really that his fault that much. He made some fantastic saves in overtime, made a lot of good saves in the shootout as well. So, full credit to McElhinney, who had a bad second game when he came back this year, but played pretty decent tonight, I thought.
Yeah, he made some really, really big saves. And the goals that, he did allow, the first one, maybe you want him to have it, but it is a power play opportunity. And it sucks that, the Lightning are shorthanded. And I don't really blame the goalie in those shorthanded situations unless it's egregious. The second one, Barclay Goodrow completely lost his man. Alex DeBrincat had a wide open opportunity. And the third one, Alex Volkov lost his guy. He had no idea where the puck was. So it was an easy shot. You could say you want McElhinney to control the rebound, but it was an easy tap in for Chicago. So it's a game where I don't think the stats are really indicative of how well McElhinney performed. Could you have said, oh, maybe he should have gotten that first goal, maybe he should have gotten that third goal? Maybe. But again, guys, we have to remember he's 37 years old and he's still playing at a fairly decent level this year. Like he's playing very well compared to his age and compared to, I would even say, last season. He's playing much better than uh, this season than he did last season. So he seems to be getting better with age. A great ish performance by Curtis McElhinney tonight between the pipes. Not as good as Malcolm Subban, but again, Malcolm Subban was otherworldly tonight for Chicago. One other thing that I really loved from the Lightning, and I know he only played about 10 minutes of the game, but it seemed like every time Cal Foot was on the ice, except for one or two shifts in the entire game, he was in the offensive zone and he was generating Corsi chances with Victor Hedman. And I know Victor Hedman is the best defenseman in the NHL, but when you can get rookie defensemen like Cal Foot to learn that system, not have to rely on their positioning in order to make plays because they have Victor Hedman and get a little bit faster. I noticed what his foot speed, not trying to make a pun, but there you go. His foot speed was actually pretty good tonight. He had that hard shot once again. It was a really solid game from the rookie.
Yeah, Foot played a very good game. He's been improving each game that he's gotten the opportunity to play. Obviously, playing with Victor Hedman is going to help anybody because he is the best defenseman in the NHL. But very solid tonight. I like the shots that he took, and you got a couple opportunities. You're right, his speed was much better tonight, and I think it's only up from here for him. He's looking like he's improving game in and game out. Hopefully, we can just get him some bounces to go his way, and he can get some pucks into the back of the net. But the Lightning did, I thought, overall play a very, very good game. It was just one of those games where one of the other goaltender just played extremely well. Although, Michael, I do think there are a couple of problems that we need to talk about that are still persisting. And honestly, at this point, it looks like they just may never get fixed. And one of those is penalties. They have constantly taken so many penalties. I believe they had 5 penalties, if I'm not mistaken, tonight, which is just way too many. You've got to stop taking those penalties. The Blackhawks had power play goals in this one as well. So it's going to cost you. And it kind of did tonight a little bit. They've got to find ways to. I know some of those calls were very, very bad, but you've got to understand that this is the way that things go sometimes. You're going to get bad calls, and you've got to put yourself in a position like Alex Killorn did, where you're making the other team make the bad play and get the call, even if it is an iffy call. You got to stop putting yourselves in the position, though, where you end up taking the call, which is something that's really has got to be fixed. It's the one thing this season that I thought the Lightning have done a very poor job of is taking way too many penalties.
Yeah, they again took way too many penalties. What I would say is that they flipped the switch in the game. In the first period, they took more penalties than Chicago. In the second period, it was even. In the third period and in overtime, Chicago took more penalties than the Lightning did. I understand that taking 5 penalties on the night is not ideal, but some of them were ticky tack calls. The Hedman one specifically, like I
That was bad.
really don't know what the referees were looking at right there. But again, it's so nice the Lightning have a good penalty kill because when these calls happen, if they are bad calls or if you do commit an infraction, you can rely on a good penalty kill to bail you out of these situations. We just don't want that happening all the time. The Lightning were 4 for 5 tonight on the penalty kill. It's not bad. Like it's actually pretty good, but you
Four for
don't want
five
that
is great.
happening. You don't want that happening every night. Like you don't want an 80% penalty kill overall during the season, but you're the most penalized team in the league. Or I believe the Lightning are what, the third most penalized team in the league right now?
Probably right around there. Last I heard, it was fourth, and I wouldn't be surprised if they moved up the ranking. So, but hey, even top six is pretty bad. So to be top four is not good. So penalties really need to try to come down.
A top half of the league, I'm just wondering where the discipline that the Lightning had last year has gone. That's all I'm really gonna say about that. I think another person, and you and I have disagreed about this person's influence on the game. Someone that I thought had a very poor showing tonight that kind of led the penalties was Blake Coleman. Blake Coleman had 2 penalties, wasn't great in the faceoff dot, was not fantastic when it came to driving possession, had a couple of turnovers. And then I mentioned it to you before we start broadcasting, and you say, I actually didn't notice him all that much, which is not that bad for a forward. It just means they're kind of mediocre. I am I seeing things, or is this one of those games where Coleman can probably pick it up next game?
Well, yeah, so it's not that he didn't have a bad game. I think he definitely didn't have especially when you compare it to the last couple of games he's had. It's just this was not his greatest game. But to me, I don't think it was like so terrible. I think as you said right at the end there, I think this is a game that he can come back from, and I think that goes for a lot of these players almost every single night. There really hasn't been too many guys that have had really bad extended games where they've struggled for a long time. So I think this just wasn't the best game for him. Had took a couple of penalties there and didn't made a couple of iffy plays, but I think he'll bounce back very quickly. He's been him and Barkley Goodrow have been one of the best two on the penalty kill, especially night in night out. They continue to do that. So not the greatest game, but I can't be too mad at him right now. I don't think it was anything too terrible.
Yeah, I'm not saying to bench him. I'm just saying he needs to be held accountable. I think a lot of everybody on the Lightning needs to be held accountable when they have bad games. Uh, so this one was Blake Coleman's. I have no doubt that he'll bounce back eventually. One more thing that I want to talk about in terms of negatives before we get to a question that I had during the game, not necessarily posed to me, but one I was thinking about was uh, the power play. I know the power play scored once tonight. They went 1 for 5, but they seemed really stagnant tonight. Not a lot of movement in terms of generating chances. They had one really, really solid power play in overtime, but that's a 4-on-3. That's very different than your normal power play. But the 5-on-4 power play, it just seemed like nobody was moving around. Nobody was directing traffic. It was Stamkos to Hedman to Palat to Stamkos to Hedman to Palat. It really felt like a generating cycle. In credit to the Blackhawks, they caught on to that. They adjusted, and the Lightning did not. And I think that's why ultimately the Lightning didn't capitalize on those opportunities to win the game. So, another probably one off when it comes to the power play, but kind of an uninspired night.
I think a lot of credit needs to go to Chicago. They did a very good job of locking down Stamkos. There was a lot of times where Lightning could just not get pucks to him, and that's what they wanted to do. When you have both Steven Stamkos and Nikita Kucherov, even though we know Andre Palat can be just as good, they're still going to draw more attention just because of their names. That's how things work. But when there's only one guy out there of Steven Stamkos and not Nikita Kucherov, Blackhawks are definitely going to lean more towards Steven Stamkos, and they did a great job of locking him down and not giving the Lightning many looks. We saw Palat a couple of times still try to get it over to Stamkos, and the pass was just easily intercepted. But there was a lot of times too with power play tonight, which was not good tonight. I don't think it was great. They did have the one power play goal, which was nice. But like Palat was just kind of looking for something. Nothing was really happening. And they kind of just held on to it and kept passing it back and forth. I think at some point, you just got to understand, all right, there's nothing there. Let's just put the puck on net. They did do that a couple of times, but they took too long to do it. As the saying goes, put the puck on net and good things can happen sometimes. So, unfortunate for the power play, but I think a lot of the credit needs to go to Chicago because they did a really good job. Now the question is, can the Lightning adjust to Chicago's playing style and find a new way to get that power play going again? Because as of, if you take the last 5-6 games versus the last 5-6 games even before that, I think the power play has been better. So even though it did not have a great game tonight, it has been better than it was at the start of the season. So that is a positive sign. Michael, I know you want to get to your question that you had as well, but I think we need to talk about overtime as well because wow, what an overtime that was. That was absolute mayhem. 2-on-1s going back and forth. Patrick Kane had a breakaway. I think he had two breakaways actually in that overtime, and both goalies just made some ridiculous saves. Wow, that was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, overtime is always fun, especially when it's, chances generating back and forth. A lot of the time when you have a team like the Lightning facing a team like the Blackhawks, they're in two separate conferences. There's no edge to try to get that second point. They'll just, go to a shootout and, whatever happens, happens. Whoever gets the extra point, they get it. Well, now all these games are focused in division. And the Lightning have played, I believe it is 3 overtime games. Feel free to correct me this season or overall. But you've got the 1-0 game against Carolina, which was one of the best games of the year, where I know the Lightning didn't touch the puck in overtime, but it was still exciting. You've got the last second buzzer beater against the Blackhawks, and you've got the non-scoring, but fantastically paced and just save after save, chance after chance game tonight. So I think that we're seeing a shift in tone when it comes to these teams in overtime, and I could not be happier for it.
It was a lot of fun to watch. It was a bummer none of those ended up going in, but definitely great overall. And what was your question that you had, Michael?
So I was watching the game, and before the game, it was announced that Eric Chernak was back. Yay! It was also announced that Jan Ruda is now day to day with the lower body injury, which sucks because he was having a great road trip to start off. He was having a great game, especially last game, filling in for Chernak basically. So that left you with Hedman, Foot, which again I thought had a pretty decent game. McDonough, Chernak, they were fine. I thought McDonough was great. And then Sergachev and Shen. Now, I have said things about Luke Shen. I will continue to say things about Luke Shen because he was not that good tonight. And he played double digit minutes, and they don't know how to move this top six around when somebody's injured. When nobody's injured, the top six is set. But when somebody's injured, they don't know who to use as a replacement. I My question to you is it time to give Andres Borgman a shot? Because he is on the NHL active roster right now for the Lightning. He's on the sort of squad with them. Like he's following them around to different places on the road, and he's there with them. Is it time to give him a shot?
From what I see on the ice, yes, I think it's definitely time for him to get a shot and get some time in the rotation just to see how he does. You know, he could not be the piece that we're looking for, and we could just have another Luke Shen situation, but we don't know that until he gets his shot. Now, here's the other thing, too. I think we talked about this last time we talked about Borgman, but we don't know what goes on behind the scenes and what's happening in practice. So to me, because he's not gotten a chance, there's clearly something that Cooper does not like and doesn't think he's going to be a good fit, or maybe some of the other coaches as well. I don't know what that situation is, but clearly there's something that's holding him back. But from a fan's perspective, from what I'm seeing, I would absolutely love to see him get an opportunity. So then we can make that decision. But the thing is, the coaches are getting to you know figure out, are they going to be a good fit in practice? We don't get to see that. So that's the thing here. But I would like to see him get his chance because Luke Shen, I think he's a good physicality player. He did make one good play tonight where he was able to try and get the puck on net, ended up losing his footing and crashing into the net. But it just seems like Luke Shen isn't working out. So I feel like almost anything else would be a positive thing. And that's something to keep on the Lightning too. When trade deadline time comes, could the Lightning potentially make a move for another D-man? Because obviously they need a little bit of help when they have an injury. You know, it's going to be tough with the cap, but maybe they move a couple pieces out and try to bring in a seventh D-man.
Kevin Shattenkirk. I know
Unfortunately,
that guy, Kevin Shattenkirk.
that would be nice. And the Ducks are not having a great season, so who knows? Maybe he does make a return, but that would be tough. But
Hey,
uh,
that'll come in our coverage later when the trade deadline rolls around on April 12th. We'll have videos coming out. Before then, I did want to say probably another reason why Andres Borgman's not really getting a shot right now. Left-handed defenseman. You know, the Lightning's left-handed side is pretty stacked when you look at it. Victor Hedman, Ryan McDonough, Mikhail Sergachev. However, we haven't seen Mikhail Sergachev play a lot on the right side with Victor Hedman, which is why I think that if you give Andreas Borgman that third right-handed or excuse me, third left-handed defenseman slot, he actually might work out pretty well. You move Sergachev to the first right-handed defensive slot and push everybody down one. Just an idea.
no question about it. And we'll have to wait and see if Cooper decides to make a move here in the near future. Although it does seem like these injuries are day to day too. So I would expect Ruda to be back relatively quickly. Hopefully he can even get an opportunity to play in the next game against Chicago. But only time will tell. But hey, you know what, Michael? This is a tough loss. A lot of credit goes to Malcolm Subban, as we talked about. It wasn't a terrible game overall, and they got a point out of it too, which you really can't complain about. The Lightning are still having one of their best seasons. Just went on a long winning streak. Key for the Lightning now is to come back against this next game and start a new win streak and keep going right there. I know this video has been kind of long too, but one last thing I want to bring up here, because we had a discussion a little bit before, and I want to hear from our viewers as well what they think about this. Michael, I think Chicago deserves some credit here, and I think they're a very good team. I think they've kind of proven themselves these last couple of weeks here that they're here to stick around. They're sitting in fourth place. I don't think they're the best team in the division, but I definitely think that I think they're a little bit more legit than a lot of people thought. You disagree with me, though.
Listen, they might make the playoffs this year, but that's because the division itself is not that good. Like, if this could potentially, and I'm not joking, be a first round matchup in the playoffs of Tampa Bay and Chicago. I just don't think that Chicago is that good of a team because they don't have defensive depth. They don't have the forward depth that you really need. Like, this is no disrespect to these guys. This is going to sound very disrespectful. Who's Matthew Highmore? Who's in Mitchell? Those are two of their top rookie scorers this year. So you look at those guys, they don't have the greatest depth when it comes to either the forward or the defense. Malcolm Subban had a great game tonight. Kevin Lankinen has been bailing him out the entire season. I just don't think it's sustainable. They might make the playoffs simply because Columbus and Nashville are not that close in terms of the division, and Dallas is still struggling. But again, it remains to be seen because now this was, I believe, their second of 8 consecutive games between the Lightning, the Panthers, and the Hurricanes. If they come out of this streak and they are, 6-2-1, 5-2-2, or whatever it is, my math is just absolutely horrible. But if they come out of it with a pretty good record, I'll start to believe in them a little bit more. But
And
for right now, it's tough to really
that's
believe in them.
a big test coming up from here, as you mentioned. They're playing some really good teams coming up, so it'll be interesting to keep an eye on them. But I do think from what I've seen against the Lightning, they played us pretty well. We'll see how this next game plays out. We'll see if the Lightning are finally able to play, that dominant 60-minute game that they want to play, like they did at the beginning earlier this season. But hey, Lightning got a point at the end of the day. We're still at the top of the division right now, still playing really good. Hopefully the guys can get some rest up. Now we don't have to play it back to back, and we can get going. And Michael, I think Lightning fans are going to want to subscribe to the channel and be on the lookout in the next couple of days here. We have a very exciting video coming.
Absolutely, guys. We'll get to it in the outro right here. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Quick Strike. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this video, subscribe to the channel, guys. Ring that bell for more notifications. Comment down below. We have a very, very cool video coming out for you guys on Sunday. We have a date. It's going to be Sunday. Please tune into the video. If you're tuning into this video after you see that Sunday video, hey, how you doing? Thanks for making it thus far in the video. But guys, also make sure to follow us on social media at Baybolt on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We cover the games live on Twitter. So come say hello to me or Jake, whichever one of us is covering the game. Again, thank you so much for watching this episode of Quick Strike. And instead of saying that the Lightning are Stanley Cup champions, they still are. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have the best video coming out on Sunday.
Go Bolts.